Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Personal Growth Project podcast. It's been a while since I've done that intro. How many months? I'm not sure, but I know it's been since the beginning of 2024 that I've published an episode. Because, like the title of this episode says, I was actually getting comfortable receiving blessings. One, I got into my dream school, which I actually referenced in my How to Know If Something Is Right For You episode. I talked about a school that I toured that I fell in love with, and I talked about how I wouldn't say what school it was until I got in. It was the University of Florida, and I got into the honors program, which was literally everything I wanted. Actually, I got into every college I applied to, even ones like NYU and Rice University and Georgia Tech, as an out-of-state student, which is really hard to do. I got a full ride to Vanderbilt, and then I graduated as a National Merit Scholar, and then I graduated as valedictorian of my class, and I gave a speech at graduation. And that same month, I also found out that I was one of 161 students in the nation to become a presidential scholar, which is I'm still coming to terms with it personally because that's a huge honor. So a lot has been going on, and I got super busy with exams and everything, and I haven't really been good about keeping up with the podcast during times like that, but it's okay because I'm back now. And there were also bad things. I will say I actually found out the day before I graduated that I had, for lack of better words, a tumor, or at least a mass growing in my stomach, actually, that was 8 inches big. So I actually got surgery a few days ago to get it removed, and thankfully it wasn't cancerous. But I had actually been experiencing a lot of what I thought was bloating the entire year, and I was wow, there's really something wrong with me because I didn't feel good. I felt really fatigued and bloated all the time. Actually, that's because it was literally an 8-inch mass in my stomach, that thankfully the doctors found and were able to remove. So yeah, a lot's been going on, and a lot is going to go on because I'm actually traveling to Japan in 20 days. I'm moving to Japan for the month of July. So yeah, that's a quick little recap of everything that's happened. And just because of everything that's happened, it's really had me think about blessings. And the fact that sometimes I don't think that we really can accept them. I think sometimes we get in the way of our own blessings, and everything that's happened to me has made me realize that sometimes God will give us blessings that we don't even think that we have a chance at getting. And when we become more trusting, and when we're able to open up more, I think we can open ourselves up to way more blessings than we ever thought possible. Just so much good fortune. And that's why I wanted to make this episode today. It's not going to be perfect because it's my first episode after a long time, and I'm a little rusty, but I'm going to be putting out a lot of podcast episodes, so it's okay that this one's going to be kind of up and down, a little bit all over the place. But the main message is that we're worth so much more than we think we are. And I can say this with absolute confidence and experience because all of the good things that happened to me that I talked about, getting into every college I applied to, becoming a presidential scholar, being chosen for a National Merit Scholarship. None of those things I thought I was even remotely worthy for. being valedictorian. Like, I did not think any of that was even like, yes, I'm like a really good student and I work really hard, but for some reason I just thought I had no chance of any of those things because we're human and we generally don't see ourselves as worthy. Like, we have no idea just how worthy we are because we see ourselves just from the same perspective all the time. Like, we have no idea what we look like to an outsider. And so we're really holding ourselves back, both in terms of like what we can accomplish. Because if you don't think that you can accomplish a lot, you're not going to try to accomplish a lot. And secondly, like the blessings that you'll accept into your life, because there's two things that can happen. It's like either you don't put yourself in positions to be able to receive blessings. So like, let's say there's an application for a scholarship or a new job. You won't even apply because you don't think that you're worthy of getting it. So you don't put yourself in like a position to receive it. Or God will put something wonderful in your lap and you think that you're so unworthy of it that you self-sabotage and you mess it up. And this happens a lot with things like relationships and new jobs. Like, you're just given something so great, you find yourself actually self-sabotaging, and a lot of the time you don't even realize you're doing it because it's so subconscious. But this episode is going to help you overcome those things so that you can accept wonderful things into your life and accept lots of love from people and love from God and hopefully lots of blessings. So my camera is like dead set on overheating, so we'll see how far I can get before I have to stop, because it's definitely about to just shut off any minute. We're going to start off this episode by talking about where most people go wrong when it comes to self-worth and blessings. The issue is, and if you're not religious, I know this can be upsetting, but the simple truth of the matter is, when your worth comes from external things and not from something deeper, like God, it's very easy to think that you're just not worthy of anything good. And that's honestly just the truth of the matter. I have been doing self-improvement for like a long time, like since I was 15 or 14, actually 13, so like a long time. And I've been through so many eras with like my opinion of myself and my self-worth, and I can truly say that it never really improved until I stopped trying to find my worth through external things. And so if you find yourself struggling with your opinion of yourself, you have to understand that it's not going to come from other people praising you. And it does not matter how much external praise you get. You're not going to be happy with yourself at the end of the day if that's where you're getting all of your validation from. Like, your opinion of yourself should first come from you. And then other people can, like, their opinions of you are like supporting evidence to your opinion of yourself. But if you don't have a solid opinion of yourself and you just go out into the world and expect everyone else, as you move along, to show you what you should think of yourself, you're going to be a very lost individual, and you're going to never really feel like you're stable in your opinion of yourself. So, firstly, you have to decide who you want to be, and you have to decide your identity. No one else can decide that for you. That's just something that you need to decide. Like, if you're not happy with who you are right now, you decide who you want to be, and then you just work towards stepping closer and closer to that person every day. And what helps the most when it comes to identity, if you're not religious, I do apologize, but reading the Bible, I have like a translation of it here called The Message that my grandparents got for me. Your worth comes from the fact that you're not just like a physical body on this earth, I believe. It comes from your soul. So it's not something physical, and it has nothing to do with your looks or the way you talk or like the way you look to other people in terms of social status or like achievements. So even like all of my academic accomplishments, I don't believe have any like correlation to my worth as a human being. I believe it's your soul that correlates to your worth as a human being, and every person is innately valuable just because they're a soul and they're a child of God. And if you have that belief of worth, then you're not going to be insecure because you don't care about anything that everyone else is going to get so caught up in the trenches about. All the people that are insecure, or at least most of them, it's because they have this view of worth as like a physical body. They see themselves as just like this physical object, and they worry about the way they look to each other physically and like the way their accomplishments look to each other. And so long as you have that viewpoint of yourself when it comes to your worth, it's going to be very hard to ever feel like you have enough. So your worth does not come from your physicality, it comes from your soul and like your consciousness. That's what I believe it comes from. And so everyone is innately worthy for that reason, just because everyone is like a soul trying to be better on this earth, and hopefully a child of God trying to learn and grow. So now that that's ironed out, you understand you have innate worth. And something else that really helps is now that you understand you have worth, you can start to understand that you're worthy of blessings. And this is something that actually, like, I have a life coach, and I actually had to talk with her about this because I continually kept believing, that life was meant to be hard and I was meant to be miserable and things were meant to be hard for me and people were meant to turn away from me all the time. And it took a lot of adjustment to get used to the fact that life is not meant to be hard. You don't have to fall into this trap of believing that life is just this long road of suffering where, you're supposed to slave away at a job all of your life and you're only supposed to live for the weekends. And it's rare for people to love you because you're just so unlovable. And bad things are going to happen to you like all the time just because you have horrible luck. That's what a lot of people genuinely believe. And so they go around actually miserable because they just believe that life is meant to be that way. But you do not have to believe that, because it says so many times in the Bible that God promises blessings and good fortune and good things because God is good. So good things come from God. And as long as we are worshiping God and like we have a connection to our Creator, we're like innately tied to all of those blessings and all of those good things. Like it's like a package deal. When you love God and you're like connected to God, it comes with all of that, all the good things, all the good fortune. So you do not have to fall into the trap of believing that your life is just supposed to be miserable or you're supposed to have bad fortune everywhere you go. Yes, sometimes God will give you trials, like an 8-inch mass in your stomach to show you that like just that you can grow from things and to make you appreciate what you already have. I do believe that bad things happen because God is teaching us lessons, and it's actually a blessing because God is just trying to help us grow. But for the most part, your life is not meant to be miserable, and you're not meant to be around people who make you feel like you're unworthy or unlovable. But, for the longest time, when it comes to love, I had an issue of accepting love and accepting blessings in that area of my life, and a lot of people do too, because they believe that they're unworthy, and so they have this scarcity mindset when it comes to love, and they believe that love is hard to come by. And that is a mindset that will really just do you over if you're not already miserable. I used to have this mindset, and a lot of people believe that it's like an accomplishment to get someone to love them. It's like a surprise when someone likes you or when someone thinks good things about you. And I still fall into that trap a lot. Even with college applications, it was like a total surprise to me when all the colleges accepted me and so many gave me like scholarships and awards, because I had this belief that like it's a shock if anyone ever likes me because I'm just so like unworthy and unlovable. And when we don't derive our worth from God and we try to derive it from outside sources, that's when we fall into this trap of believing that we're not good enough and never will be, because we are saying that our worth basically comes from being like this extraordinary, like beautiful celebrity that has tons of money and tons of accomplishments. And we believe that if we're not that perfect individual, then we're not worthy of good things. And so we're shocked when good things happen to us and we kind of push good things away. But you have to believe that you're worthy of more, and then good things will come to you. I got lucky because despite the fact that I did not think very good things of myself, a lot of blessings still fell into my lap. But the challenge actually ended up being keeping those blessings and knowing how to adjust to them. Because as I said earlier, there's two things that your lack of self-worth will cause you when it comes to blessings. Either one, you don't put yourself in positions to receive them. Luckily, my self-worth issue was not that bad. I still applied to colleges and I applied to scholarships, so like I gave myself a chance to receive. Or number two, you receive those things and then you self-sabotage. You don't know how to handle it. It's like someone who doesn't know how to accept a compliment. Those people can kind of irk you, but like, you know what it's like when you try to tell someone something they're good at and they just genuinely, like, you can tell it makes them uncomfortable because they just don't believe that about themselves. That's what you're coming across like to God and the world when you have this poor self-worth and you just believe that you're not worthy of good fortune or having blessings come your way. And I want you to change that. As I was saying, sometimes God gives us blessings, and this is another piece of the puzzle we have to deconstruct. Sometimes we sabotage those because we don't believe that we're good enough for them. And the number one example I could give you is love, definitely love. A lot of people actually, and this boils down to childhood attachment styles. I could make a whole episode on this. But a lot of people have experiences where they grow up and either they're like smothered by their parents in terms of love, or their parents are avoidant in terms of love. So their parents like push them away. And so they believe like, wow, I'm just really not worthy of love. And so these people grow up to have an avoidant attachment style. And usually it comes from being like having parents who avoid you. So avoidant parents make avoidant children in terms of attachment styles. And so there are people who, when you try to show them love and they have an avoidant attachment style, it makes them want to leave. It makes them kind of take a step back, like want to push you away. And it's not because they're just bad people. And, you know, it took me a while to come to terms with this because I know some avoidant people in my life. But it's genuinely because some people grow up believing that they're not worthy of love because their parents don't show them consistent love. And so for the rest of their lives, or at least until they figure out their attachment style and fix it, they are not going to be able to accept healthy love. It makes them like genuinely uncomfortable to be loved in a healthy manner because they've always experienced like inconsistent love or just no love at all. And so this is the same thing with like us and our blessings. It's like the number one example of how we can push blessings away. Sometimes if you have an avoidance style and someone loves you, you push it away and you self-sabotage because you just don't feel like you're, like subconsciously, you just don't feel worthy of it. You don't feel like you deserve it. And that is just a huge issue because sometimes God will give us these blessings, and because we haven't done the inner work to work on our worth like as a child of God and not like just as a physical object, we believe that we're not worthy of the blessings that are being sent our way. And so we self-sabotage and we mess them up. But yeah, once you can become more confident in the fact that you're worthy of good things happening to you, your life will change in every way. Because you're no longer going to block yourself off to those opportunities to be blessed. That's where a lot of your issues come from. You're blocking things or you're self-sabotaging. So when God gives you an opportunity to apply for something or to put yourself out there, you've got to do it. You've got to make the leap, even if you feel like you're not worthy of it. Because when I first got the email telling me that I was a candidate to be a presidential scholar, I legitimately considered not even submitting the application because I knew that out of like the 6,000 candidates, only 161 were going to make it to the final round. And, I'm pretty smart and I guess I have a lot of accomplishments, but I still thought there's just no way I'm like that caliber of a student to be chosen as one of the 161. I could barely even get myself to write the essays for the application because I just thought there's no shot I was going to get it. But I did it anyway, and I ended up getting it. So that just goes to show you have to put yourself in like a position to be blessed by God. Allow yourself to be blessed by doing the work to fill out the applications and put yourself out there. And this isn't just talking about applications or conversation opportunities. It's also like what you do with your time. You can be thwarting blessings just because you keep procrastinating and wasting your time. Like, God has given you the time, and the time itself is a blessing that will allow you to bring more blessings into your life if you use it correctly. But a lot of people are like, they just believe they're too unworthy, so they just waste their time instead of using it to work on something that they're talented on. And so in that way, like, they can live years and years of their life without realizing that the whole time they've been like thwarting blessings that they seriously could have had. And secondly, the second big point I want to make is the fact that you don't have to self-sabotage when you are given something good. Know how to be the type of person who can accept a compliment and accept a blessing and say thank you. You know what? Maybe I wasn't sure that I deserve this, but you've given it to me, so thank you. I now believe I'm worthy of it. When God gives you blessings, don't just throw them in the trash because you don't feel ready for them or you feel like you're not worthy. Sometimes blessings aren't all good. Sometimes you can be aware that something is a blessing, but still know that it challenges you. Like, for example, if you have like an avoidant attachment style and you're given a healthy relationship, it will challenge you. And you know it's a blessing, but you also know that it challenges you because you're not used to communicating well with someone and having that healthy attachment style. So it will challenge you, but it's a blessing that's worth it and that you shouldn't shove away. You have to be able to do the inner work when you get these blessings and say, hey, like, I'm ready to do what I can with this and make the most of it. And I was also thinking about this in terms of like starting a new college, because that's such a big blessing to me that I'm moving somewhere new and I get to like pretty much completely restart. And I was really starting to get anxious about it and see it more as like a curse, because it's just the stress of like trying to make everything perfect when I show up there. And then I realized like, no, Abigail, no, this is a blessing, because although it is challenging, to reinvent yourself and be somewhere new, that's also such a big blessing. And if you're willing to do the inner work to make this an opportunity for transformation, then it will be like 100% worth it and not a curse at all. So there's just a lot to think about in terms of blessings, but what I want to encourage you to do is, one, as we talked about earlier in this episode, work on your self-worth and realize that you're worthy of having good things happen to you. Work on your self-worth not as like a physical object or just a person, but as a soul and as a child of God. Read your Bible. It'll help you out a lot. And secondly, become comfortable with accepting blessings, both by putting yourself out there and not sabotaging blessings when they do arrive. Do the inner work to make yourself feel good enough to put yourself out there, and then do the inner work to be able to work with the blessings that God gives you. Because blessings, just like challenges, do require you to grow. it's not actually as easy as you would think accepting all of these things. Like, even when I was accepting, like, the valedictorian title, that also required work, because all of a sudden now I had to, like, come up with a speech. And as someone with huge social anxiety, like, all of a sudden I had to give a speech to thousands of people. And I did the inner work on it. I talked with my life coach about it. Like, I made my speech really authentic and I put in the work. And when I got up there, I delivered the whole speech without any social anxiety, which is remarkable. Because if you had seen any of my presentations in a class of even just 30 people a year before, you would have thought that I was like a completely different person just by how confidently I was able to deliver that speech. And also with things like the presidential scholar thing, I was getting interviews on TV, and as I said, like, as someone with social anxiety, or who used to have social anxiety, that required a lot of growth and a lot of inner work on my end to become comfortable, like, giving interviews and being on TV. Even though I have a podcast, it's still, like, really different and kind of intimidating, like, to have the microphone and everything. And finally, God has also blessed me in the sense that He's given me so many healthy, like, connections with other people lately. Like, just genuinely so many loving people in my life, so many wonderful, amazing people. And it's challenged me to become a better communicator and to be a better friend and to be more mindful of, like, how I can serve those people back, because I'm experiencing, like, so much love in my life right now in this chapter and so many people doing kind things for me. It's also challenging me to become a better person in the sense that, like, I'm learning how to really open myself up and become more vulnerable and become a better communicator and love other people as deeply as they love me. And so even though we will get all of these blessings in our lives when we open ourselves up to it, you have to be prepared for the growth that'll come with it. But I say growth from blessings is much better than growth from things not going your way. And, like, the kind of growth that you have to endure when you're experiencing, like, horrible fortune. So I would say my advice to you is open yourself up to those blessings so that you can grow the easy way and not the hard way. Because as I said before, you don't have to fall into this trap of believing that life is meant to be hard and miserable, because it's not. You can grow the easy way, and you can grow through blessings instead of growing through curses. You don't have to make life hard on yourself. So that's what I want you to think about this week. Opening yourself up to blessings, being ready to receive love and good fortune, and choosing the easy way and the happy path, the godly path filled with good fortune, instead of choosing this path of doubt and believing that life is meant to be suffering, because it's not. I hope you have an incredible week. And if you want to keep up with me, you can follow my newsletter. I'm going to try to keep posting on it semi-consistently. You can subscribe to the newsletter, and it really helps me out because it'll help me buy, like, better equipment for the podcast and keep, upgrading my production so I can make better episodes. And you can also follow the podcast Instagram at Personal Growth Project Official. I would also love that. And thank you so much for supporting this podcast, and I'll see you in the next week's episode.